No one ever voted for the people who decide how expensive life becomes. No election, no campaign, no speeches. Yet their decisions determine how much you can borrow, how much you can save, and how much your money will be worth tomorrow. They don't wear crowns. They don't run governments. But when they move, markets shake, economies bend, and millions of lives quietly adjust around it. This power didn't appear suddenly. It wasn't seized. It wasn't announced. It was built, slowly, quietly, system by system. And it began with a simple realization. Money doesn't need to be controlled directly. If you control credit, money will follow. If you're new here, welcome. This is Economy Time Traveler. In the last episode, we followed money as it first took shape, from barter to metal to trust. Today, we go one step further. Because once money exists, someone always finds a way to control it. And that's where this story truly begins. For most of human history, money felt simple. Metal changed hands. Trade happened face to face. Value felt physical. Gold was heavy. Silver was scarce. Trust was personal. You knew who you traded with. You knew who owed you. But as societies grew, this simplicity stopped working. Trade expanded beyond cities, beyond borders, beyond personal relationships. Promises replaced payments. Credit replaced metal. Money was no longer just exchanged. It was promised. And promises require trust. By the early modern era, economies were no longer powered by gold. They were powered by belief. Belief that debts would be repaid. Belief that contracts mattered. Belief that tomorrow would arrive as expected. But belief alone is fragile, and when trust cracks, entire systems begin to tremble. By the late 17th century, Europe was running on debt. Not hidden debt, not temporary debt. Debt was the system. Governments borrowed constantly. Merchants lent aggressively. Bankers recorded everything in ledgers. But nothing connected at all, no central authority, no unified guarantee, no institutions standing behind the promises. This worked until pressure arrived. And pressure always arrives. For governments, the risk was even greater. Warfare had changed. Armies were larger. Weapons were expensive. Wars lasted longer. But treasuries were empty. Raise taxes. Rebellion. Refuse to repay debt. Trust collapses. England learned this the hard way. In 1672, the English crown made a fatal decision. It stopped repaying its debts. History remembers this moment as the stop of the exchequer. The damage was immediate. Bankers collapsed. Credit froze. Trust vanished overnight. Money didn't disappear. It hid. Lenders became cautious. Interest rates surged. Loans shortened. Capital pulled back from trade, from production, from growth. Merchants delayed expansion. Governments lost flexibility. The entire system became fragile. England discovered a brutal truth. Once trust is broken, you cannot restore it with words. You need structure. England didn't need more money. It needed a new system. That's when a dangerous idea emerged. What if the problem wasn't debt itself? What if the problem was that debt was scattered? What if government debt were gathered in one place and turned into the foundation of money itself? What if debt became money? One of the men who helped formalize this idea was William Paterson. A private institution would lend the government a massive sum. In return, it would receive something unprecedented, the authority to issue money backed by government debt. By 1694, England was on the edge of collapse. Wars with France had drained the treasury. A group of financiers stepped forward. They lent the crown £1.2 million. In return, they gained control. The Bank of England was born. This was not an ordinary bank. It wasn't created to serve citizens. It wasn't designed to protect savings. It existed to finance the state. For the first time, private finance and public power merged. Whoever controls debt controls credit. Whoever controls credit controls the economy. The system worked. Governments borrowed. Wars were financed. Crises were delayed. But money changed. Paper replaced metal. Policy replaced scarcity. Interest rates became levers. Debt became permanent. Central banks spread across Europe, not because they were admired, but because they were necessary. Central banks were never referees. They were players. They decided who received credit, who survived crises, who absorbed losses. And they did all of this without a single vote. Money stopped reflecting reality. It started shaping it. Debt became policy. Central banks were created to manage debt. But debt alone was never enough. For that, they needed something subtler. A tool that doesn't look like power, yet shapes every decision you make. That tool has a name, interest, and its shadow, inflation. Once you understand how these two work together, you'll see why modern economies never slow down, and why money is always losing value. That story comes next.